welcome everybody and take it away, Mynoo.
Thank you very much. I'm just getting to the start of my notes. I actually have made some notes around this for our session today. Okay. So our session today is really focused on some practical actions that we can take. I mean, it's pretty amazing that session number 52, the grand finale, is all about practical actions around the vagus nerve, stimulation of that, restoration of it. And David, Helene, as always, if this is meant to be an interactive session as well, so in case there's something that shows up for you as I'm talking, you're very welcome to interrupt. If any of you that are here listening, if you've got a question that arises, then just go ahead and put it in the chat. I usually have my hair tied up, but it's too early in the morning, 4:30 a.m. here. And because of my broken arm, I'm not able to do it myself. So I have this, puffed up hair, which you don't normally see me in. Okay, so let's begin. Reconnecting to the vagus nerve itself. Vagus nerve, like I've said previously, it is our superpower. It isn't just any other part of the body. It is actually the key that enables us to unlock these higher states of consciousness, healing, and personal transformation. So, we're going to talk more about guided practices, practical actions that you can do so that you can experience the power of your vagus nerve in real time. And you can do that by consciously choosing to stimulate the vagus nerve, creating like a daily practice that enables you to strengthen it. And not only does it have an impact on the vagus nerve, it also strengthens your nervous system. And that enables you to stay calm, connected. Your intuitive abilities get significantly enhanced. And you can operate from your intuition even in the most stressful situations. We all have intuitions. It's just that sometimes when we are in an environment of stress and anxiety, we're not able to connect there. If you know how to stimulate your vagus nerve, you can turn around that situation quite quite comfortably. And this is a really important aspect of the vagus nerve, which is why I believe that session 52 is a session on the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve is a nerve that really anchors and responds to each of the six cylinders. Remember when we began the human miracle? We began the human miracle with talking about the six cylinders: physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental cylinders. So the vagus nerve doesn't just respond to your body, it responds to your thoughts, which is mental. It responds to your emotions. It responds to your connection or disconnection, and in fact, is a way of reconnecting to your spirit. It responds to whatever occurs in your social dynamics. It also responds to, what's going on in your environment, energetic as well as real. It's extremely sensitive to your mental states. So situations like stress or fear, even negativity around you or negative self-talk, it weakens the vagus nerve. While actions such as gratitude, such as, remember, I talked about create your treasure trove of joy, you know, dipping into that treasure trove of joy can strengthen it. Breath is a very important axis, and I'm going to talk about that in a moment. So what this means is that, your mindset and your emotions, not only do they have an impact on your vagus nerve, they have a direct impact on your gut, on your heart, on your overall health. And vagus nerve is the key conduit for that connection. On the other hand, if you cultivate calm, trust, positivity, it's not just about feeling good, it actually transforms your biological reality. So, think positive movement, you know, is far more impactful than maybe even you had realized. It has a direct impact on biological reality, physiological health and well being as well. So, even starting your day with some healing thoughts makes a huge difference. We have a very interesting time, in Bali. This time used to be one of my favorite times. And Kenneth Ballard, who's here on this call, sent me a message sharing that today is the day which is called Ugo Ugo Day, which is a day where they get rid of the demons. And there's a whole ceremony that takes place, processions that take place of these huge sculptures that have been created by different communities, and lots of gonging, drumming, chanting happens, and it's like they're driving the demons away out of Bali. And tomorrow, 29th, is Nyepi. Nyepi is the Balinese New Year. And the way Nyepi is celebrated is usually in silence, with a fast. Everything stops. There are no flights, there are no cars, there are no cycles. You keep your lights off, you keep your stoves in the kitchen off, and you just simply allow yourself to be. A very powerful transformation of your biological reality starts to take place. And I remember, I lived in Bali for 9 years, and I remember often sharing with my friend JP that, if only the world could learn to experience this, how awesome it is that everything just stops once a year. Of course, we had many, many days and weeks of it when COVID arrived. And we saw what it did. It completely restored and resurrected nature. But one of the things that this Nyepi thing does is this hive of activity that leads up to it. And then, boom, complete stillness and silence. It actually gets you to reconnect to yourself. And we had like a huge projector and a big wall for doing movies and stuff, and people were often excited to come and spend Nyepi at my place. And they would all be there downstairs watching movies and things, and I would be upstairs in my room under the mosquito netting and just simply being. And it was like this amazing, miraculous resurgence of the vagus nerve. I remember on one of those occasions going to the pool and just standing in the pool. I'm not really a swimmer as such. And that's when I realized how different, even with simple wind, the way different leaves rustle, the sound is different. And I was able to differentiate the the bumblebee with its tiny little wings and a butterfly. The sounds are so distinct and different. And I mean, it was like, wow, it's amazing. It's the same nervous system that didn't notice any of this stuff. Suddenly, in those few hours into Nyepi, got tuned into nature in such a magical way. I mean, it brought to life what it feels like, you know? thriving on all six cylinders. It's no doubt that the vagus nerve is called the miracle nerve. It is so transformational when it comes to healing. And it's recognized as such now because it influences both, your body, mind, and spirit. I talked about this last time. I'm just going to reiterate the three miracles that are caused by the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve plays a key role in reducing inflammation. It has been recognized that inflammation is the root of many, many chronic conditions. And how does the vagus nerve do that? It does that by activating your parasympathetic nervous system. And that in turn provides a deep healing and cellular regeneration. And you switch from that stress mode of fight or flight to one of relaxation and restoration, rest and digest. And this allows wounds to heal, organs to function optimally, chronic illnesses to subside. Digestion is a process of ingestion, absorption, and excretion. Whilst we associate digestion to physical food, digestion as a process applies to emotional distress as much as it does to digesting some food that you may have eaten. Digestion applies to any pollutants that you may have been subject to. Digestion as a process works on all forms and all sources of ingestion. It may be through your skin, it may be through your nostrils, it may be through your mouth, it may be through your thoughts. So, the vagus nerve plays a key role in supporting that, the healing and regeneration, because it plays a key role in enabling us to digest in terms of, you've already ingested. To complete the digestion process, when you calm yourself down, and I'm going to talk about certain practices that you can use, you're able to distill the insights or the learnings, which is the absorption part. And once you've done that, you consciously give permission to your cells to release that which doesn't serve your digestion of emotional and mental stuff is complete. Simply by the way, I will be teaching you how you can activate the vagus nerve through your breath. Simply by that way itself, you reconnect to your own spirit. Breathing in that way enables you to switch from reaction to responding. And so in social dynamics, nobody needs to know that you're doing something different in your breath. You can just do it quietly, silently, and make that switch. If you get reactivated, wanting to react, you could instead simply switch to this vagus nerve stimulation form of breath, and you will automatically reestablish your bond with yourself. And that enables you to resurrect a bond in your social dynamics. So, so vagus nerve plays this massive role. The second miracle that is enabled by the vagus nerve is emotional resilience and spiritual connection. And that's really what I've been talking about here. But there's a very specific reason why that occurs. This nerve is deeply linked to, to our heart and brain connection. Heart, and it is very much present in your gut. So, like I talk about the three brains, the mind brain, the heart brain, and the gut brain, the vagus nerve is that deep linked connection between the three. So, as a result, it directly influences your emotional well being, your intuition, and your ability to feel deep states of gratitude, which the consequence of gratitude is experiencing a deep state of peace, inner peace. It restores joy. The consequence of joy being restored is happiness. And when the vagus nerve is activated, it releases oxytocin. Oxytocin is the love hormone. And when oxytocin is released, that helps us experience compassion, connection, and inner harmony. All of these are key ingredients in our spiritual awakening and also in what I call as flourishing leadership. So remember, I talked about 2025 and it has anchored and activated the flourishing triad. With the triad has three vibrational states: flourishing, harmony, and humility. The vagus nerve allows you to consistently operate from the center of the flourishing triad. The shadow to the flourishing triad is the meaning triad, which has meaning leading to anxiety and stress, blame that takes you off your game, and lack of vitality that depletes your life force. So, even if you are in that state, which can happen from time to time, you do something physiological. Sometimes when you're in that state, mentally your mind is just overthinking. And it's difficult at that point to even positively convince yourself to go into the flourishing triad. At that point, you just access your vagus nerve. And I'm going to give you certain practices that you can work with. And when you get that happening, you reconnect to your own emotional resilience, and that spiritual reconnection is established, oxytocin is released, you are in awesomeness, you can literally leap into the flourishing triad. The third miracle that is activated by the vagus nerve, and that is the access to higher states of consciousness. A well stimulated vagus nerve enhances intuition, it enhances your creativity, and that gives you clarity. And it is the combination of these three, intuition, creativity, and clarity, which makes the vagus nerve a powerful tool for expanding consciousness. When you use the vagus nerve axis to expanding consciousness, it increases what is termed as gamma activity, a gamma brainwave activity. And that gamma brainwave activity, scientists have shown, is associated with heightened awareness, connection to the divine, such that your actions are inspired by the divine. Many enlightened leaders, mystics, visionaries, they may not be aware that they are doing this, but through their practices, they are unknowingly optimizing their vagus nerve. And that is what enables them to tap into limitless wisdom and be in flow there. You know, it's like activating your vagus nerve unlocks a secret pathway to deep healing, emotional and mental harmonization, and spiritual expansion. Even as I was writing this, I was sort of so present to, I came from the corporate world. I was go, 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 go. Yeah, sure. I was born in a to a very spiritual mother, and I was born in a family that was spiritual. But we also were a family, in India, we believed in the elements. There's a aspect of Hindus that is not about all of these multitude of god structures that you see in Indian religious scriptures and stuff. So uh, we are all about karma. We believe in karma. We believe in what you do is what comes back to you, and we work with the elements. That's how I've grown up. So I did not grow up with um, you know lots of um, prayers to deities and stuff like that. It's more about you are the expression of the divine, and that's how I grew up. So, I was trained and I was like living in different parts of the world, go, go, go in the corporate world. And then I felt very disconnected from it all and then went on to Bali, as many of you know my story. And and then decided to stay there for 9 years. And everything transformed. It transformed literally within 3 weeks. And then it just kept going from strength to strength to strength. And the one physiological thing that I did in those 3 weeks, which meant that, as my son calls it, Bali happened to me, was a very detailed uh, breathing practice. And there were 13 breathing practices, the 13 types of breaths that I did every single day for an hour and a half, an hour and 38 minutes is how long that ritual lasted. And of course, Bali by itself and was quite an amazing place in terms of stimulation of the vagus nerve. And I'm going to talk about some of the practices, and you'll see how all the rituals and ceremonies that go on in Bali really supported that. And when I look at my breathing practice routine, and this is something that I have maintained throughout, when I got to Bali, I had high blood pressure, hormonal imbalance, major infection in my right ankle that had just been brought under control, but I was on heavy, heavy antibiotics. Hypothyroidism was there. A type 2 diabetes was also quite strong. And for whatever reason, I had not taken any medication for any of this. So when I started doing these breathing practices, I land in Bali at the end of January. In October, my mom is going through her last journey. So I'm there in India. And after she crosses over, the three sisters, we went for a 7-hour medical checkup to make sure that we can at least take charge of our health. And what I found there was all of my markers were fine. All of those conditions that for which I would have been prescribed medication for life, they had all disappeared. And and I believe it was the breathing practice, and of course, you know, using the presence in Bali to go to some ceremonies and stuff enabled me to transform my health. And it happened because my breathing practice, every breath is working on the vagus nerve. Every breath, each of the 13 does that. And then, remember I talked about downloads just started coming to me and I started writing, automatic writing. I think that's what happened. Like just literally limitless wisdom just opened up. And I didn't know what to make of it other than it was coming through. So I just expressed it. I do believe it was the miracle of stimulation and activation of the vagus nerve that put me on the perfect path for all of this to occur. So I'm going to go into the 5 different ways in which you can stimulate the vagus nerve. Now, before I do that, is there anything that is coming up for you, David and Helene, that you want to bring up, comment on? Yeah, you may be muted. No, you're
No,
not.
I think it's just so amazing that uh, when people are in trouble and they do start, in the breathing practices and all of that, a lot of people just aren't aware of the connection with the vagus nerve. So this
Yeah,
is
yeah. I mean, it is really great that there is a physiological access, because sometimes mentally you can't get there if you're deeply upset about something. But doing something physical is another way. And when you do something physical and you do a vagus nerve stimulation, then it unlocks everything else. That's the magic of this thing. We began the whole thing where I set the scene of the human miracle 52 sessions ago, where I talked about the 6 cylinders and the vagus nerve. We're concluding it with the vagus nerve that literally is the key to us thriving across these six.
Right. When I was over in India, I remember the uh, the Swami who was in charge of uh, of a lot of the work there used to always say that the breath was the key to life, and it was always very, strongly impressing upon everyone about different breathing practices. So
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay, let's look at the 5 powerful ways in which you can stimulate it. The first one is it's just to do with breathing. And here it is deep conscious breathing. And I'm going to be talking about different types of breaths that you can work with in stimulating your vagus nerve. And this is deep conscious breathing. So here what you're doing is you are exhaling just a little bit longer. So let's say you inhale and you inhale for 4 seconds and you exhale and exhale slowly with your mouth for 6 to 8 seconds. And if you can keep your right hand over your diaphragm, so when you're breathing, just allow that diaphragm, nothing violent, nothing aggressive, feel that diaphragm lifting, and then exhale slowly through your mouth, 6 to 8 seconds. It's a perfect way to switch into a heart centered space. And usually, the heart centered switch is the switch that flicks on the vagus nerve stimulation. You just need to repeat it for a few minutes, maybe even 1 minute, 2 minutes. Don't need too much of it. And of course, you can do it for 10 minutes. And when you're meditating, you could do it for even longer than that, but it's not required. So you're bringing in coherence. Sometimes they even talk about this form of breath as coherent breathing. So when I do my 30 breathing practices, I have in between each one, I have at least 5 to 10 of these coherent breaths. So when I go from one breathing practice to the other, I don't just go from one to the other. I stop, get back into this coherence breath, breathe in 4 seconds, breathe out 6 to 8 seconds, and do that about 5 times, and then start the next one. It's very easy. You can do it lying down or wherever you are. I'm very conscious that sometimes health conditions mean that you can't necessarily always sit up and do it. You can do it in any posture. Another way is humming, chanting, singing. Humming is a really powerful one. Vagus nerve is connected to our vocal cords. So using your voice activates the vagus nerve. And so if you were to hum deeply, simply hmm, that alone does something to you. It's an activation of the vagus nerve. And doing the chant of Om creates that same effect, activates the vagus nerve. Singing those repetitive mantras, they add that bit of joy to it. Sing alongs that we do adds that wonderful flavor of joy to it, to that vibration of your vocal cords. And one of my breathing practice, two of my breathing of the 13 is about humming actually, where I just breathe in through the nose and I breathe out simply by humming. So it would be so I'm not conscious about breathing out. I'm just humming, and through the humming, the breath out is occurring. And I'll just do that 5 times. And once I've done that 5 times, I then do the next breath where I breathe in, and my breath out is with the chant of Om. So I just go Om. Again, humming, activation of the vagus nerve. Now, this humming, you may not be able to do it in public necessarily. So that wonderful coherent breath you can do anywhere. But in your own space, worth humming, even if it is just, you know, 5 breaths of humming is ample. It's enough. And you can do more of that. Another practice that you can do, which is to do with cold water therapy. Again, what I'm learning about the vagus nerve, it really does not respond well to aggression or violence. Whilst, going for an ice bath, for some, it is so exciting to do that and it's brilliant. But for others, they get so stressed about the whole idea that they go into, I have to do this. It is good for me. I must do it. You're actually defeating the purpose of what it's meant to give you. So just go for cold water therapy. It could be just exposing your body to cold water triggers. So what it does is this cold water therapy activation, how it works is it is shifting the vagus nerve and your entire nervous system into a state of resilience. So they are active. And when they're activated, the blood gushes in because the blood is wanting to harmonize the temperature of your body internally. So what kind of cold water therapies could you do? Splashing your face with cold water. That's one thing that you could do. Ending your shower with just 30 seconds of cold water. Cold plunges, of course, if you're adventurous. Ice baths do it. And my favorite, which many of you have heard me talk about, and then this human miracle, we've talked about it a lot, which is wrapping your tummy area where your navel is in the center, and you have about 4 inches above the navel, 4 inches below the navel, where you've got a cold water band. So right now, because I've a fractured left arm, I am not able to tie the band around my waist. So I literally just take a towel and I'm like sitting on the bed and I just have the towel over me. And it is cold and it takes maybe 20 minutes and it warms up, but it's brilliant for me. Given that I've had an accident, and in this accident, inflammation is quite high in the body because the body is coping and providing a cushion for the bone to heal. But I don't have to suffer from inflammation. Pain is often exasperated by inflammation. So by simply doing the cold water therapy, I mean, I can't have any sort of strange stuff going on my arm. It's much better now. But before I just couldn't have cold water on my arm or anything like that. So it's simply stimulating the vagus nerve, having this cold water towel on my tummy, doing it 3 times a day for half an hour each time, really supported the inflammation part. And therefore, I'm able to sleep at night. From the first day of my accident, I was able to sleep without the pain. And yes, of course, I have combined it with anti inflammatory foods as well. But this cold water therapy stimulation of the vagus nerve has really helped because I could not do my 13 breathing practices. I realized in having had this arm thing happen that we have so many layers of muscles, these nano muscle fibers, the neurons that are there, that even breathing, doing some of the like the breath of fire and stuff, would actually mean that that broken bone would be agitated by that. And I couldn't do them. I couldn't do the usual breathing exercises. I've now, like yesterday, I started doing some of them and it feels much better. So the cold water therapy was my way of stimulating the vagus nerve. And was like so grateful that, I understand this stuff and I can implement it. And these are simple things that anybody can do. And the fourth one, which is a great practice, laughter. Laughter and genuine social connection. Laughter, even if it means you're making up your laugh. I'd heard that laughter yoga and laughter therapy releases endorphins and stuff. You know why it does that? Because it activates the vagus nerve. It's a very natural way. There's such a concentration of vagus nerves. I talked about that last time, in and around this whole region of your midriff. So when you're laughing, a belly laugh, a throat laugh, a variety of laughs, in no time at all, 10 minutes will go. Even if you just began with the typical Santa Claus, ha ha ha, ho ho ho, and then go from there. There are so many laughter clubs online that you can join as well. It activates your vagus nerve. And that is what releases the endorphins, the oxytocin, the serotonin, all of these wonderful, joyful, happy hormones that enable you to feel connected. Surrounding yourself with uplifting people, engaging in heartful conversations. You know, I mean, why do I do these sessions? I engage in a heartfelt transmission, even though it's not necessarily a conversation. Why do I do the ask me anythings and the beyond meditations? It's amazing. It just completely activates our vagus nerve. And that has so many benefits. Literally, the vagus nerve activation is like that first domino. that literally sends that wave of happiness. The fifth one is gratitude and meditation. So when you tune into gratitude, you know, sometimes it's really useful to just place your hand on your heart as you are counting all that you can be grateful for, as you're counting your blessings. I like to have my left hand over my navel and a right hand over my heart. The navel is, I thought it was to do with the sacral chakra. It is. And it is also a powerful signaling to your vagus nerve. It creates a beautiful coherence between your heart and your gut. Many a times, when I do these programs, which I call as flourishing leaders of the world, when I do them with students, college students, a lot of the time, a common question or concern that a number of students have is the overthinking. How do I stop myself from overthinking? And I say to them, start overthinking. The moment you realize you're overthinking, step into overthinking. Now, here's what happens when you do that. Overthinking, you're in thoughts. Thoughts are generated, there is no root to it. So they can just keep going. Thoughts can go, 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 go. And because they have no roots, it's like you're getting more and more and more and more disconnected from yourself. When you step into thanking, you only thank that which has occurred. And if you're overthinking, you overthink because you've gone so far away from your body that the most powerful way of landing inside your body is to step into thanking. And when you thank, you're thanking that which has occurred. And then you thank again, and then you thank again, and then you thank again. You don't even have to do it aloud. And if you did it aloud, it's awesome because you're also using your vocal cords to stimulate the vagus nerve. And you don't have to do it aloud. You can do it in your mind. That also stimulates the vagus nerve. It literally starts to vibrate the vagus nerve and it amplifies the effect. Otherwise, at least once a day, great way to, I love to begin my day even before I leave my bed, to count up at least 6 things that I can be grateful for, even as I'm just opening my eyes. Last thing at night, I do the same thing. Close my eyes, do the coherence breath, and again, complete my day with at least 6 things that I feel grateful for. I literally feel as if my heart is expanded. And sometimes I would even visualize this beautiful expansion. And really, what is happening is when you are doing this, especially with gratitude, especially with thank you are honoring your presence in this human form, in this human body. You can, of course, have many customized vagus nerve activation meditations as well. Our beyond meditation in some ways does that. And that's why, some of these beyond meditations are extremely powerful. They go into a deep state of trance because the vagus nerve is supremely activated and you are one with the amplifying frequency of love, presenced in your soul essence. And that has an impact on healing, intuition. I'm going to talk about some of the deadly sins that can damage the vagus nerve in a moment. But before I do that, just checking in, David and Helene, if there's anything that is showing up for you that you wish to bring up. And I know there are a couple of chats that are here. Okay.
Well, I mean, this is, you know, probably everybody on this call is always practicing, some form of breathing. People who are connected or are interested in even being here on this call. But there's so many insights that you're giving us tonight that are just new, just about being and also how you can be creative around it. This is
Hmm.
very exciting. This is very exciting.
And very accessible, right?
Yeah,
Easy.
You
it's not
know?
hard. Yeah, thank you.
So, my grandson, the 7-year-old now, he's 7. Um, the one who's like really plugged in to where he originates from and stuff. So he would sometimes get so frustrated with the way humans think. He calls us humans, actually. You know, so the human thing sometimes would frustrate him, and he would find it very hard to get out of it. And he shared it with me, that I can't get out of it. How do I get out of it? Can I say something, can I do something magical and I can just get out of it? So I've just taught him this breathing stuff, and so I taught him the breathing, which sometimes he's like in not really that interested. He's with friends and he's not going to now stop and breathe in a different way. So I taught him that he can also look at 5 things that make him very special. And if he's really frustrated with a friend or something, he should look at one thing that makes this friend very special. So, like practical stuff that can be done with people of all ages. And really, all I was doing here was reconnecting him to his vagus nerve, knowing what I know now about it. So, let's look at the deadly sins. The deadly sins, the first one is quite obvious. It is chronic stress and overthinking. And I've already given you the solution for that, overthinking. But basically, this chronic stress, it literally, or overanalysis, constant worry, it literally creates an inflammation in your brainstem. So you're in fight or flight state constantly. And when you're in a fight or flight state, you're suppressing the vagus nerve's ability to heal and restore. So cortisol levels are high, inflammation is high, brain fog occurs, immune system weakens, vagus nerve stimulation absolutely transforms that. So there's a whole playlist of Beyond Meditation, including series that I've done on the human body as well. Just go ahead and use those things. And there's so much amazing stuff available online too. And there are some simple practices where you don't have to go find a computer if you're in this brain fog state and you want to snap out of it. Just use some of the breathing practices that I've suggested here. The second one is deadly sin. See, I'm talking about deadly sin here, and it is deadly sin. It will destroy you. The second one is suppressing emotions. Suppressing emotion and self expression. Those of you who've done deeper work with me, particularly I say this to the ones who are in my business collective, I often say that one unsaid communication results in 100 unfulfilled expectations. From 2025, in the age of brilliance, one unsaid communication results in 1,000 unfulfilled expectations because the pace of forward movement is not just movement, it's forward momentum. Every breath is like a step of moving forward. So have nothing unsaid. Now, there are times where you may have unsaid communication with people you're no longer in touch with, unsaid communication with people who are gone, who are not even in this human body anymore. The energy signature is very present of those people. The fact that it holds that unsaid communication within you. So even if you just express it, write it down and read it out to a tree, you've expressed it fully. And you will feel a transformation within. Vagus nerve thrives on emotional expression and connection and love. Bottling up these emotions, avoiding these, communications that should have been had, or isolating yourself, disconnecting yourself from expressing the truth of who you are, it weakens the activity of the vagus nerve. By this time, we've all really understood that the health of the vagus nerve has a direct impact on the health of your organs. I remember, when I was like transmitting wisdom that was coming through my mother after she had crossed over. One of the things that she kept saying to me is, everybody's talking about stress now, but the epidemic, in fact, a pandemic about to come, is that of loneliness. So many people will talk about stress. And then I've got a whole body of work around loneliness, which really is about not feeling those heartfelt relationships. It shrinks the vagal tone. When the vagal tone is shrunk, you don't feel joy, you don't feel peace. But emotions like fear and all of those, they grip you. You can't get out of them. And you know what you can do? You can do by beginning with reconnecting in a heartfelt way to yourself. Sometimes simply having an authentic conversation with yourself, speaking to yourself. And you can do it in the privacy of your own room. You can do it when you're in a walk with nature. And another fix could be just joining an online laughter yoga thing for 10 minutes, or finding a perfect sing along, playing that in your Spotify or something and singing along with it. Now that you know humming activates it, breathing activates it, gratitude activates it, thanking activates it, or going and doing one or two acts of kindness, you know, helping someone cross the road. Something simple. It will literally just get that switch flicked. The third deadly sin is processed food and other forms of toxin overload. So I remember when I moved to Delhi for a period of time on account of work, and the Delhi air quality was so bad. And people used to say, you have to stop your breathing practices, because you're just filling your lungs up with all this toxicity. Well, I decided to just flood my room with lots of plants. I didn't know that the reason why I was guided to continue my breathing practice was because of the vagus nerve stimulation, but I continued to do that. So, the main thing I want to say with this deadly sin is the gut and the vagus nerve are directly connected. So, consuming processed foods, refined sugars, artificial additives, excessive caffeine, sugar, whatever, can cause gut inflammation, which has a direct disruption effect on your vagus nerve. Environmental toxins like pesticides, heavy metals, plastics can also impair its functions. A lot of these things we don't have any control over. And hey, I lived in Bali for 9 years, you know? I remember going to organic rice fields, still seeing the women with their kids in the back and spraying the rice fields with, well, hello, this is organic. Yeah, yeah, but this is necessary. This spray is necessary. So you don't know what is organic, what wasn't. And yet I had this massive vagus nerve activation, as a result of which I am the person that I am today with these amazing cosmic downloads that I'm able to share with you all. So find ways in which you can consciously choose whole, high vibration foods that stimulate prebiotics, foods that are rich in microbiome. Bless your foods, pray before you eat in your way, whatever it may be. And I think I've shared the blessing of the food prayer that I have, which is I always say that, I'm deeply grateful to all the beings that have come together to make this food available to me on my plate. And I bless and thank all the beings in me and the being of me to receive the highest nutrition and nourishment this food has to offer. And I end with, you know, how much better can it get? How lucky am I? I didn't realize it was activating my vagus nerve. The weird thing is that I'm often guided after I do the blessing to have just one sip of water. I don't have any more water, and then I just have a sip of water. And I think it's because water washes away the debris and brings flow to what I have just declared as a prayer and a blessing of the food and the water. So it actually resets the vagus nerve. Simple, small ritual that resets it. We've come to the end of our time. I have got a ritual as well, a vagus nerve ritual, reset ritual, like a 5-minute ritual, which maybe I can just type up and share with you all. But I would like to complete on time. Over to you, David and Helene, to complete. And we are completing, and I'm also going to bring Sunny in because you've also been a host of this series. And I think Sarah is here today too, who also has hosted this series. So I just want us to, acknowledge and complete all the
Wow.
people that have come together for this transmission of this series. So,
Well, we're all better for it. That's for sure. You know, but,
And thank you, Mynoo, for the series.
yes, thank you
yeah,
for
I'm grateful that I decided to show up on this despite many challenges.
and
Actually,
most of
you look beautiful, Manu.
With my hair open.
You do.
It's
Yes.
okay now, but in 2 hours it blows up.
Okay, well, whatever, but you look beautiful right
Thank
now.
you. Thank you.
and I know most of us. I mean, of the people on the call have known you before COVID, but Helene and I started right around the time that COVID started. We started listening, being on your
Yeah.
calls like 3 days a week, and then this particular special Thursday evening where you did the new Ten Commandments, and the wisdom, and of these series that are all very transforming. A lot of times you do things like I have done things instinctively, just by doing a lot of what you said, meditating and breathing and all this stuff, and you don't really, you know, didn't really know that the connection with the vagus nerve, how important it is to
Yeah.
shift, like you said, shift
Mm.
way of
Yes.
being. So, Sunny.
Yes. Yes, Sunny.
And I just want to also honor you for your commitment to all of us. And I just feel so strongly that in these times where we all have so much going on and there's so much turbulence and there's so much love and there's so much of everything going on, and really honestly that you have been here and creating these magnificent times for us each Thursday. I just really want to honor you and thank you, thank you. I just want to really
Thank
honor you for the
you.
power of what we've received, and much of it we may not even know until later. And
I just
so again, the consistency and the dedication to all of us, I just feel very, very grateful for.
Thank
I
you.
just want to also mention that someone very special to us that we invited on the call tonight, Lori Schwartz, says thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and knowledge.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm
Thank
so happy
you.
that you're on the call tonight, honey.
Yes.
Thank you for coming here. Sarah, anything you want to say?
Oh,
You've been.
I ran home because I was out all day, and then I looked where you noted this was the last one in the series. I was like, what? Like, oh my God, how did that happen so quickly? Um, but my gratitude as well for your consistency. And for you, often you show up even when you're feeling unwell or you're traveling between countries. Um, and this is your contribution. I mean, you ask for nothing. Um, and it's a tremendous contribution to all of us, and to whoever will listen over time. The series of the different bodies of work that you do. I mean, I have my notebooks from when you started. I can't remember what your first series was, but I have no.
Navigating the unknown. It was.
Was that the
Na-
first?
Yeah, yeah.
Hi, guys.
But just, and thank you for covering. It seems so magically appropriate that you're covering the vagus nerve last. And then I'm here because I've been hearing about the vagus nerve, especially when it comes to trauma and flight, and procrastinate, like why, where does procrastination originate? Like, why do people procrastinate? It's not about procrastination, it's about whatever trauma or fear or anxiety. And I haven't known how to focus on practicing with the vagus nerve. So I'm going to undertake that now. But thank you for closing the series with this treasure. It seems like such an invaluable understanding for us to not only have, but to be aware that we can be conscious on activating.
Thank you for acknowledging. Thank you for hosting as well, because hosting really gives me the freedom to just transmit and not worry about anything else. So that energetically, you create the container as a host. And
Mm.
thank you to each one of you who've participated so diligently over all these years. It's been 5 years, guys. Many of us have been at this. Amazing. And just a little thing I want to say now about what's coming. We have just completed a 6,000-year cycle, right? So 21st of March was a very, very big day. This equinox, 21st March 2025, marked the end of a 6,000-year age to the new age, which I call as the age of brilliance. In India, the age that we have just completed, it's called the Kali Yuga. And it really was marked by it was an age of ignorance, an age of separation, age of command, control, all of those things. And the good thing is that every darkness, every cycle of darkness is followed by a cycle of light. We have crossed that threshold. We are now in the cycle of light. We are in the age of brilliance. We have just entered it. These last few days, certainly until the 29th, and we had the eclipse as well, has been very intense in terms of releasing the past. So the next series is about navigating through the age of brilliance. And that's what the series is going to be about. I'm learning about it. Even as I speak, I'm learning about it. Every day, there's new stuff that I'm learning. The main thing that differentiates the sage is the pace with which you can move forward with anything that you desire. Like literally, spirit guidance to me is every breath is a step forward. And if so, humans will evolve and rise and expand, or they may resist. And when that resistance comes in, you will find yourself like literally physically falling, or some physiological stuff also occurring because the movement is so fast. Energetic movement is so fast. So I've been in my business collective, I've been talking quite a lot about just take that next step next. Don't worry about leaping because leaping is going to happen anyway. Just take that next step next, but keep taking that next step next. If you take a breath in and breathe out and then you just pause, you can't pause for that long, because there's a natural cadence that is there in your breath. You can hold your breath for a period of time, but then there is that push to take that next breath again. The same thing is happening with the steps you take. So the clearer you are about where you're going, what your intention is, and remember, if you don't have that intention very clearly defined in words, it doesn't matter. The purpose of life is to come alive. So come alive. Whatever it is that makes you come alive, take the next step next towards that. And there are very distinct facets of the age of brilliance, time being one, the industries that are going to become more prevalent. There's a particular foundation of industry that's going to have an impact on the kind of work we do, the kind of business we do. The flourishing triad I've talked a little bit about. But what does the flourishing triad mean in terms of this age of brilliance? This age of brilliance will be at least 2,000 years, more likely, like 200,000 years. So it's begun. It's begun. Uh, this is the age where there really is no need for any long process of any kind because the pace of movement is so fast. Because sometimes when we have a process that has served us in the past, we become very attached to that process and we want to do it that way. But actually, the delivery of the processes when you are operate from your truth is so rapid that you would already have had the benefit and you're still following your process. You'll become like your center of gravity will be shifted and you'll find yourself tripping. You'll unnecessarily add stress and anxiety to yourself. I mean, these are just little examples of what I'm talking about here. So the series is going to be the age of brilliance. I'm constructing what that looks like, um, as guided by spirit. And I think that's the reason why I broke my arm. I tripped and fell on my elbow. The entire weight of me, which is quite a lot of weight, landed on my elbow. My elbow didn't crush, which would have taken much longer. It would have been much more painful.
Well,
My
you're
shoulder.
really making these great sacrifices to bring that wisdom forth. I'll tell you that.
Well, I think I am so fortunate that all I had was this little cut because it broke the pattern of me traveling, traveling, traveling. And I've had at least 3 weeks and possibly another 3 weeks of just simply allowing myself to go in and bring forth what is called for in this age of brilliance. I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have had the time to do it, you know? So I just feel so fortunate. I don't see it as a sacrifice at all. I just think, oh my God, how lucky am I?
Life lessons. How lucky are we that you have these life lessons?
I know. And the best part is, my sister Vibha.
Mm.
Some of it, Sania, you also probably met her, right? So, uh, she's so she and I, for the last several months, we've not been able to spend time together because I've hardly been around. And here I am, at her place, and she just got a home help. And this home help is a qualified trainer, a qualified caregiver, you know. So it's been so brilliant. She knew exactly how to help me in these early days, changing clothes, showering, all that stuff, which is awesome. So I was so well protected, really, um, bringing forth this age of brilliance. It's a great time. We all of us at a soul level, this is what makes me feel so close to all of us, or each of you. We are a part of the same family. We signed up to be alive at this time, you know, for this moment. I mean, it was so exciting for me that we finally did get to 21st March 2025 and exactly what the divine wanted to accomplish. God
And we're
accomplished.
all here.
We are
And
all
we're all
here.
here.
We are all here.
Yeah,
All here.
we are.
So
Well,
looking forward to
I would encourage everybody who was on the call tonight to re-listen or to re-watch this last session, because there was so much information here, so many ideas, and I think if you listen to it again, it could really like
yeah.
drive home a lot of what you said in an hour.
Yes, indeed. And Laurie, Stewart, I don't have your information, but if you give permission to David and Helene, they can share it and we can continue to invite you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Namaste.
Namaste. Lots of love.
Thank you.
Namaste to all. Namaste to all.
Thank you.